Very much. Now, there is growing optimism that a deal on reducing emissions can be reduced at the climate conference in Bali. Establishing an agreement has been problematic, though, as the United States say they can't agree to some of the targets. This has prompted outrage from campaigners who say the United States is stalling. We can cross live now to Washington and speak to Mario Lewis, a senior fellow at the Competitive Enterprise Institute. Marlo, forgive me there. And Marlo, we understand that the summit is now going to negotiate through the night. They've got another day to try and reach some form of agreement. And it's the Americans that are holding things up. What is the problem with signing this deal?
Well, the U.S. delegation I would characterize as the adult in the room. Somebody has to insist that climate policy be based at least partly on economic and technological reality, and that it also reflect the understanding that affordable energy is critical to human welfare. And that's the role I think the United States is playing.
Okay, so 180 countries.
People don't like a hard dose of reality, and that's why there's so much complaining about it. 180
countries joining this summit, and America is the only adult amongst that group. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, you know, usually, let's say in an elementary school, the children outnumber the teachers.
And do you understand why people have a strange reputation of America? I mean, this is the problem, isn't it? You're being seen as big bullies at this summit. Everybody, apart from you, wants to sign this treaty, and you won't do it.
Well, that should come as no surprise. Remember, Al Gore, who spoke at the Bali conference, negotiated the Kyoto Protocol, yet the Clinton-Gore administration declined to submit Kyoto to our Senate for ratification, and the Kyoto targets are much smaller than the targets that are being talked about now in Bali. So I really don't understand how Mr. Gore gets to go to Bali and deride his own country when Bush is simply continuing the Clinton-Gore policy of not approving the Kyoto Protocol.
Al Gore also said that if you get a new American president, things will change. Is he right?
Well, maybe he's thinking very hopefully about himself. Well, of course, it all remains to be seen, but I think that any U.S. president, once he considers the numbers, what we're talking about here are proposals that the world reduce its emissions in the aggregate by 50% by mid-century, and somehow the industrialized countries are going to have to go way beyond that. But I've seen the numbers from our own Department of Energy, and even if the industrialized countries, the EU, Canada, Japan, the United States, were to go cold turkey, zero emissions by 2050, we still couldn't reduce global emissions by half unless the developing countries also cut their emissions by half, because all the projected growth in emissions over the next few decades is in China, India, and other developing countries. China is building a coal-fired power plant at the rate of 1 a week. How are we going to tell China that it has to reduce its emissions by half? The only way we could meet these kinds of objectives is through a global depression that lasted for decades. And the United States is simply trying to get people to wake up to that fact.
Okay, Marlo, we'll leave it there. Thank you for your views. Marlo Lewis, a senior fellow at the Competitive Enterprise Institute. Updating you now on the top